The Philadelphia Eagles will begin their title defense Thursday night against the Dallas Cowboys. Nick Sirianni has been adamant on burying last year's accomplishments in their pursuit of going back-to-back. The Eagles will not be on the field to watch the Super Bowl 59 banner be raised in front of their home crowd, as the focus has shifted to a new goal and leaving last year in the past and starting anew. Let's start with the defense, where in 2024 they finished in dominant fashion, forcing Patrick Mahomes into 3 turnovers, including a pick 6 by Cooper DeJean. They also sacked Mahomes 6 times, as the Chiefs never seemed to get going, and the Eagles took out their starters with under 3 minutes remaining. Several key veterans did leave in the past offseason, most notably Brandon Graham, who's been the emotional leader in the Eagles locker room and has been a disruptive pass rusher since entering the league in 2009. But with his retirement, that does leave a void on the defensive line. Additionally, Darius Slay, who's been a solid cornerback, even being the Eagles' primary corner since joining the Eagles in 2020, has departed to join with the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. The defensive line duo of Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, who chased a bag in free agency, combined for 4.5 sacks on Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. But thanks to Howie Roseman, who does look to replenish talent early, has already had their replacements waiting in the wings. Jalix Hunt and Moro Ojomo have played really well in limited snaps towards the tail end of last season, with each getting home in that divisional game against the LA Rams. Nolan Smith, I think, could be a breakout candidate, as he finished the season really well, coming up with 4 sacks in the postseason. With an expanded role and significantly more playing time, I think that Nolan really does have a chance to become a premier pass rusher, providing excellent pressure coming off the edge. If there was a weak spot in this Eagles defense, it has to be the second cornerback spot, which is my biggest concern, to be honest. After Darius Slay's departure to Pittsburgh, second-year corner Quinion Mitchell will be taking on the top cornerback spot. In training camp, he's been practicing traveling side to side with the opponent's top receiver, as he would likely play man and sometimes even go back to his normal zone. The cornerback spot opposite him is definitely in question, and they had an open competition between 4th-round draft pick from 2023 Keely Ringo, veteran Adoree Jackson, and recently traded defensive back Jacorian Bennett from the Las Vegas Raiders. Adoree Jackson won this job, and I put it in quotation marks because I didn't really feel that any of the candidates really stood out. Keely has all the attributes to be a starting cornerback, but he had a really poor outing against Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals in the preseason, and that seemed to really shake his confidence. I have a feeling that Jacorian Bennett will eventually become the full-time starter, but for right now, since he only arrived at the Eagles practice facility in August, I feel that for the safest bet Vic Fangio can put is to start Adoree Jackson. And for how long, I'm not sure, but I think starting Jacorian Bennett will be inevitable. Despite a lot of turnover on defense, the team still has a lot of its stars from the 2024 team. Jalen Carter is coming off of a Pro Bowl season where he also earned a second-team All-Pro nod, and he looks to be primed to continue to be one of the most disruptive defensive tackles in the NFL, which he's already proven 2 years into the league. Carter is the Eagles' defensive anchor, where he brings pressure up the middle and also eats up blocks to allow for the edges to feast. Like I said earlier, Nolan Smith could be the breakout candidate on the Eagles defense this year, as he seems to really key in when he's playing alongside his former Georgia Bulldog teammates. With Zach Bond recently extended to start free agency, look to see how he continues to build off his stellar 2024 campaign, where he was the best linebacker in football. In the secondary, we already spoke briefly about Cooper DeJean in the Super Bowl, but he might be even used as a safety in certain packages, while also moving back to his more traditional nickel cornerback position, while Reed Blankenship continues to provide solid play playing from the safety spot. In the 2025 NFL Draft, Howie Roseman made 2 defensive selections with his first 2 draft picks. In the first round, he traded up 1 selection to take Jahan Campbell out of Alabama, and he's been a phenomenal addition to this Eagles defense, as I see him being a perfect complement to Zach Bond. Bond has proven to be a sideline-to-sideline linebacker, and I think learning under a first-team All-Pro in his rookie year would be excellent for Jahan's development, as he's already shown a lot of flashes being a disruptive linebacker in stopping the run and also playing well in coverage. The Eagles' second-round selection was Drew Makuba out of Texas, and Makuba did have some adversity in this training camp where he suffered a couple of injuries, but he did flash some potential in the second preseason game, taking back an interception all the way for a touchdown. Despite all the turnover on defense, Vic Fangio remains to be the best defensive play caller in the NFL. He's been able to adjust to his players' skill sets while putting them in the right positions. Just look at the start of last season. After getting torched by Baker Mayfield in Week 4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defense gave up 24 points on the first 4 drives. But since the bye week, Cooper DeJean was inserted into the starting lineup in the nickel cornerback position, and once doing so, the defense improved massively as a coverage unit, leading to an uptick in pressure in terms of coverage sacks. And all 3 levels ended up working well together, where they each have a Pro Bowl caliber player to help Vic execute his defensive concepts. And like I said, as long as Vic is calling the plays, I feel that the Eagles will have a top 10 unit. The Eagles' offense remains virtually unchanged. Despite Saquon Barkley running for over 2,000 yards, there were times the passing game was in question. It's expected to have some drop-off in the running game just because Saquon needs to keep his legs fresh for the postseason, and I expect the usage to take a slight dip compared to 2024 as the Eagles look to further expand the passing game. Jalen Hurts is a proven winner, and when it comes to stats, it's not flashy, but his ability to be so unselfish and even sacrifice for the betterment of the team is why he's one of the best leaders in the NFL and even all of sports. There's been times where he doesn't need to light it up from a passing perspective, but if necessary, Jalen Hurts has proven on the game's biggest stages that he can do so. Just go look at last year's NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. In August, they made another move to trade for Josh Mechie from Houston, as he could be another depth piece in the receiving room to pair alongside the developing undrafted free agent Darius Cooper. But when we discuss the Eagles' wide receiving room, it's all about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown has consistently been a top 5 receiver since joining the Philadelphia Eagles in 2022, and he seems poised to have another big year. Devontae, while having somewhat of a down season in 2024, did catch fire in the postseason, especially that dagger to effectively ice the Super Bowl in the 3rd quarter. The interesting piece in this receiving room is Jahan Dotson, who came on to the Eagles training camp late in preseason and was struggling to find his footing in the regular season. But to start the postseason, he caught a touchdown pass and was fairly productive in the postseason run that ended up helping the Eagles win the championship. With a full offseason, and in case AJ or Smitty do go down with some injury that does leave them missing some time, it seems that Jahan can pitch in for a game or 2 and be quite productive. The only true change in offense has been at right guard, where Mekhi Becton left in free agency to get a bag with the Los Angeles Chargers, and Tyler Steen stepped in to take over in 2025. Now, last year, it seemed that it was going to be Steen's job to lose, but an untimely ankle injury ruined those chances of him starting. This year, Steen has locked up the starting gig at right guard, and it seems that the offensive line is once again fortified to create running lanes for Saquon Barkley and also protect Jalen Hurts. Some other significant changes will be their new offensive coordinator, as Kevin Patullo will be the new offensive play caller after Kellen Moore left to take the Saints head coaching job. Patullo walks into a great situation that very few first-year offensive coordinators get to do. He gets an offensive line that's one of the best in the league, littered with Pro Bowlers and All-Pros. He has a Super Bowl MVP quarterback. He has a loaded receiving room, including A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and has a former 2,000-yard rusher in his back pocket. It will be interesting to see what Patullo can do, as I would like to see him bring in some of those Kellen Moore concepts that we saw in 2024 with a mixture of what we see in the typical Nick Sirianni offense that we saw from 2021 to 2023. The offense really shouldn't take too far a step back compared to their 2024 offensive production. Yes, their schedule is more difficult compared to last year, but I really love their offseason moves as they worked really hard to maintain as much of the Super Bowl roster as possible, and I feel this year the NFC East did get a little bit weaker. The Giants and the Cowboys are amongst the bottom third in the league, and I do think the Commanders will pose a threat, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the podcast, but I don't think that they're better than the Eagles. The NFC itself is possibly just as stacked as last year, with the Packers and Buccaneers taking notable strides forward in terms of improvement. But despite all that, the Eagles are the best team from top to bottom and expect them to be Super Bowl contenders once again.